If you're watching this video, first of all, thank you for tuning in. Second of all, subscribe to the channel. 75% of people that watch our YouTube videos right now are not subscribed to the channel. Seriously, it doesn't take very long. Just click the big red button below. We promise, if you like sports talk shows, you will enjoy this channel. Promise. Dave, floor is yours, buddy.
All right, so for this week's icebreaker, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Life is full of mysteries, full of unexpected turns, and earlier this week we heard about the Stanford women's soccer captain and goalkeeper, Katie Meyer, who committed suicide, unfortunately. Her parents bravely joined the Today Show to kind of get her message out there, to kind of talk about it. She seemed to have it all. She was a national champion in 2019. She had, that morning the morning she committed suicide, she talked to her parents, and, they said everything seemed fine. And she was really excited about everything that was on her plate. And I think that's a critical reminder to everybody that we don't know what's going on in everybody's lives. You might know someone real well, but are they really letting you in on what's going on? So I think, it's a great reminder to always check in on your friends and family and never be embarrassed to tell someone you love them, even if you really don't want to. It might be the last time you ever get the chance to tell them that. So if you or someone you know is at a risk of suicide, please call the U.S. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255, or you can text HOME to 741-741, or also online you can go to speakingofsuicide.com/resources for additional resources.
Getting into the show today, we got a couple of topics we're going to talk about. We're going to give an update on the MLB Lockout. We're going to address some NFL rumors, some spicy rumors that are happening here in the National Football League. Then the Combine also. The Combine, we're going to highlight a couple of things from the Combine. And in the grand scheme of things, Combine doesn't mean a whole lot, but some people do help their draft stock in the Combine. I think we got a couple of names that we're going to throw out there that may have helped out their stock in this upcoming draft. And then we're going to have a college basketball conversation, talk about some of the top players, and possibly maybe talk about our picks to win College Basketball Player of the Year. So that being said, I want to give a quick shout out to college baseball. College baseball has kicked off, and there's so many things that I love about college baseball. The games kick ass, for one thing. There's so much passion that goes into college kids playing ball. If you watch a game on ESPN Plus, all of them are streamed on there. So that's just, if you're losing your baseball fix, we do have an option, and it's college baseball. They stream a ton of games online, and even NAIA schools, they stream all their games online. So you can go to their website, their school website. Most of them actually stream their NAIA baseball games online, and I watch a ton of those. So the best thing about college baseball is they're actually playing baseball. We're without professional baseball right now. So get on there, get on the college baseball bandwagon, see how games are supposed to be played. Rob Manfred. Major League Baseball update with the lockout. Surprise, shit's still locked down. There have been games canceled. They've canceled the first two series of the year. Nothing's really happening. Everyone's pretty pissed off about it, and the game's losing its young fans more and more every single day. But for me, I still have hope. I'm still going to watch Major League Baseball when it comes back. Actually, the biggest update I've seen so far, and you guys can chime in if you need to, on Sunday, which is today, the recording of this video, I haven't heard anything since then. Representative from Major League Baseball and the MLB Players Association have held the first bargaining session basically since Rob Manfred canceled the first two regular season series. MLB Network's John Haben says that no players are attending that meeting, only each side's top negotiators. Now, if I would look back at this graphic that I have taken from the internet, a couple of things being talked about on both sides. Again, we talked about this last show about the minimum salaries, which in 2021, the minimum salary was $570,000. The competitive tax balance, $210 million in 2021, and the pre-arbitration bonus pool. The two sides, those are the big areas which they're differing at this time. So the MLB, they have proposed a $700,000 minimum salary with a $10,000 increase per year. The Players Association want to see that number bump to $725,000 with a $20,000 increase per year. So you can see there's a big gap there in terms of getting anybody to agree on any of that. With the competitive balance tax, we have $220 million. This is what the Major League Baseball owners have projected and proposed, and it's climbing to $230 million by 2026. The Players Association would like to see a competitive tax balance start at $238 million, which has gone down from last week when I mentioned that we were doing $245 million. But that number would climb to $263 million in 2026. And then finally, the pre-arbitration bonus pool. The MLB has proposed a $30 million with no increases. So $30 million for the bonus pool. The Players Association would like to see that number with $85 million with a $5 million increase per year. That right there is going to be a huge gap to overcome when it comes to making any kind of deal with the collective bargaining agreement. Have you guys heard anything different?
No, that's pretty much everything I've got so far. The only other things that I'd say is, one of the bigger points is the owners want 14 teams in the playoffs, and the players have kind of played around with some offers like ghost wins and stuff like that, but that's been rejected. And also, I saw just at like 2:00 today that the owners want to take. So right now, if they have a rule change, they have to give the players a year notice. They want to change that to 45 days. So that's the only thing I've heard. And but then my 2 cents on the whole canceling the 2 series. So I've been fortunate enough to go to opening day weekend in St. Louis the past couple years. Miserable. I mean, it's 35, windy, some snow. I don't think anybody that plays on a northern team or a Midwest team cares that the first 2 series were lost. The players want to make up the games in doubleheaders. Owners don't care. So, I'd say we're probably looking at a May 1st opening day if you're really looking at it deeply. So I wouldn't be surprised if more games get canceled pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to get into that 30 to 40 games canceled. It's going to be somewhere close to a quarter of the season before both these sides really get serious. I think they're both pretty firm in the stances they have right now, but neither one seems willing to find a middle ground. They're both very strong in what they believe, and it's going to be difficult for them to give both ways. It's not just one of these sides that's going to have to negotiate. They're so far apart on those major issues. Maybe they solve the arbitration pool, but that's a new topic. That's not even one of the main topics that all these other collective bargaining agreements have got held up on. So I think we're going to see at least 30 to 40 games missed, but we may get 3/4 of the season and whatever playoffs they decide on.
Yeah, 30 to 40 games, that's a lot. That's a big fraction of the season, especially when you're talking, some maybe even eliminating seasons in general. A couple other of the rule changes that may pop up, and I'm not sure if they've made a decision on them or not, would be like the universal DH, which I do believe that's going to be a thing. I agree with that rule wholeheartedly. Some of the other Major League Baseball rules that have come up over the last couple of years would be like pitch clocks. Like David mentioned a couple episodes ago about a relief pitcher has to throw to 3 batters. That's dumb in my opinion. But pitch clock also stupid. I think it rushes the game. The games are too long, but they're partially long because of bad umpiring for one thing. Expand that strike zone. We want to see things happen. TV deals they're constant, right? I know in high school baseball you have in the middle of an inning you've got 7 pitches to throw to get loose, and then you're throwing the next pitch to the batter. If shorten that time between innings, stop going to commercial every time you can to pay the bill. That's going to speed up the game more than anything. But those are a couple of rules that have come through the pipeline there, and there may be more on the way. Who knows? But that's our update on the Major League Baseball lockout. Obviously, not a lot happening, but we're all baseball fans here, so we have to make sure we keep an eye on that. The next thing we're going to talk about is any NFL rumors that are circulating, and the biggest one so far, other than anything to do with the combine, Amari Cooper on the move. Probably, I would say, a 98% done deal. The Dallas Cowboys plan on releasing Amari Cooper to clear cap space. I had read a report that they are also listening to trade offers for him, but it's the general consensus of most professionals in the media are saying that they're just going to flat out release him. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't see Cooper getting traded for the same reason the Cowboys are going to cut him. $20 million is a lot for a wide receiver that he's had some wide receiver 1 years, but you see him next to a player like C.D. Lamb, who I don't think C.D. Lamb is top 10, top 15 in the NFL, and Cooper's kind of playing second fiddle. So I just don't think he's going to command that top dollar, and no team is going to give up assets they already have to take on a contract that size.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of wide receiver free agents out there, and I think the production, you can get that production elsewhere for bottom dollar.
And also, you got to think about, we're going to hit the combine here in a minute, and I've got one name in particular I want to bring up. But think about the wide receivers that just ran their 40s in the combine. It's like a record-setting number of – it's ridiculous the numbers they're running right now. So there's obviously, some speedsters out there. You could teach somebody how to catch a football. You can't really teach somebody how to run fast. That's just, God-given genetics at the very most. But – think about what the Cowboys have once they get rid of Amari Cooper. You have CeeDee Lamb. You have Dalton Schultz as a tight end, as a receiving threat.
If they franchise tag him.
Yeah, if that happens. And then you have Michael Gallup, who is probably, a mid-tier receiver at best. There's not a lot going on with Michael Gallup. I think he's coming off an injury? ACL tear, if I'm not mistaken.
Also a free agent that they have to, extend or get a new contract for.
Yeah. I saw some articles saying that they're going after him hard, though, that he's going to get paid. So,
well, good for him. I just don't understand the Dallas Cowboys. They've got the talent. Like we mentioned when we did our NFL awards show, they led every offensive category across the NFL when it comes to passing touchdowns, yards, rushing yards, all that good stuff. They led almost every category. And what do they have to show for it? Not a lot. But the problem with them is I think they need a quarterback. I don't think Dak Prescott is the guy for them. I just don't see Dak Prescott winning the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
See, I disagree strongly on Dak. I do think Dak's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think by any way you look at it, Dak's top 10 in the NFL. But I agree they're not getting the job done, and I think it's because drama does matter for a football team. Jerry's world is not an easy place to play. There's always something. There's always a story in Dallas, right? And I don't think they're on the same level, but similar to what's going on in Washington with Dan Snyder, investigations, former coaches, emails. Dallas has had some stuff come up. I don't know if you guys saw the voyeurism issue that came up with one of their executives, a few years ago with the cheerleaders in the locker room. Settlement for $4.2 million out of court. Nothing went public.
Well, that's probably why I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, but it's coming out now, and the NFL's investigating. But, I mean, if you have an organization where those things are even going on internal, if your organization as a whole isn't entirely focused, you're not going to have success through the season. I didn't hear anything in Cincinnati. I didn't hear anything in Los Angeles about the Rams. There's no scandal. There's no investigations. There's nothing crazy going on with the owner. And I feel like Dallas always has something. Jerry Jones is just such a persona, and when you have things behind the scenes going on, it's really hard for your team to focus on winning that championship.
And when I look at it too, like you say Jerry's world, it feels like everything about the Dallas Cowboys revolves around Jerry Jones. I don't think it's a great thing for everybody that's a football fan to know the name of the owner of your team. Y'all see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I know the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals because I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, but I couldn't name Robert Kraft. That's a different one. Robert Kraft's a different story. When you win 7 Super Bowls and you see him on TV all the time, kind of like Jerry Jones. But I couldn't name the owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I couldn't name the owner of the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know the owners of the majority, probably 95% of the NFL teams. And that's for good reason. Jerry Jones makes it about Jerry Jones most of the time. He's built this miraculous fortress of a football stadium that football takes a back seat in their own stadium. Like, they're all the time putting shows on and events on. And it's because it's just become bigger than football for him. And I think that is where the Dallas Cowboys have fallen off, and that's why they've fallen off. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of pieces. I mean, clearly they're a good football team. They won the NFC East last year. They have the deep targets. They have the running backs. They have the defensive playmakers. I think you need to get a better line there to start. And I don't know. I'm up in arms on Dak. I think he's serviceable. It's just I don't know if he gets you there though.
Left alone on Dak, I'm shocked. Dak's the real deal, guys. Dak's the real deal.
I don't want to be a Dak hater, but I think the injury messed him up. I think that might have been a good year for him. Last year, I just didn't see everything I needed to see. There are some times that you know when a quarterback is going to be the real deal. Like, we can sit here and say Patrick Mahomes is always going to be Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady, but was Tom Brady. He's retired now, but you knew that he was going to be in the hunt every single year. You now kind of have an idea of, Josh Allen being right up there in the thick of things, and then all of a sudden you have Justin Herbert come through, Joe Burrow come through. I just don't have the same feeling about Dak Prescott year in and year out whenever I think he's going to be – I don't feel like he's going to come lead his team to a playoff every year. I just don't see it. And there's more quarterbacks in the league that I feel the same way. I feel the same way about Kirk Cousins. Why are people paying that guy?
Yeah, I think Dak's above Kirk Cousins.
I agree with that too. Dak is way above Kirk Cousins, but the dude's getting paid a lot of money to throw a football.
Yeah, he got into a contract early, and he's still milking it. And there's some talk about maybe them moving on from Cousins. I don't think they can upgrade, so they're going to pay that salary, even if they could get similar performance at a discount. But, I mean, let's play a name game real quick. Who do you want over Dak? Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I'd take him.
Well, who would take it, Carr?
Derek Carr? No, I'm taking Dak over Derek. I'm taking Dak over Carr.
Who else? Ryan Tannehill. His team went to the playoffs.
I'll say this. You put Dak on the Tennessee Titans, they're a Super Bowl contender. I'll say that.
So Dak elevates that team.
He does. In my opinion,
I don't think so. I think Dak
a healthy
is
Tennessee Titans team.
He's maybe top 10. He might be 9 or 10 for me in the QB power rankings right now. I just don't think if he wins the Super Bowl, it's not going to be because he went out there and threw for 5 touchdowns. He's going to have a lot of help. So,
I didn't mean to hijack it for Dak. I don't have the stats to back it up, but that's just my feeling is that Dak Prescott can be that guy.
I hope he does. The league needs really good quarterbacks, and there's so many teams that have mediocre quarterbacks that it's not good for the visual of football. And we don't want the NFL to end up like Major League Baseball and not have a product to put on the field that people care about. And I think for a lot of teams, for the Cincinnati Bengals, for years, like I watched every single game, but I'm like, are we going to win this one? We went from winning 6 games in 2 years to double-digit wins in a Super Bowl run. That happens like that, and it just goes to show teams that aren't really built to win a Super Bowl right now. There's area of growth right there that can happen in a very short period of time, and I think the Cowboys' time is running out.
Yeah, I think for this core, it's definitely. Clearly they're moving on from Amari Cooper, so they realize that they got to make some moves. So you got to take advantage of while Parsons and Diggs are young and they're still making plays, and CD Lamb as well. Kind of, what do you do with Zeke? I mean, he kind of turned it around there at the end of the year, but everybody I'll talk to, Tony Pollard's RB1. I mean, that guy's a stud.
I agree with that.
So
I think Zeke becomes a third down back because he's just an excellent pass blocker. And he's getting a lot of money. I don't think there's a market for him. I think they keep him to help protect Dak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're with their best friends. I think if you move on from Zeke, then maybe Dak's demeanor falls, a little bit, which he's had a rough couple of years anyway with his, was it his brother passing away? And then, the pretty gruesome leg injury he had to go through and rehab for. So I think you keeping, the dude's best friend around is going to help him. Although Zeke has fallen off quite a bit, in my opinion, and I don't think he has. With this timeline for NFL running backs is short anyway, and I think you have to capitalize on their primes. You might, and it's also becoming a running back by committee league. So if you can have, 2 guys like the Cowboys do that are very talented, you can do a lot with them. I think that's something that the Bengals are missing. Because you had it with the Rams. You have Akers who come back from an Achilles injury, and you had Tony Michel,
and Darrell
Henderson most of the year too. You didn't see him a ton in the Super Bowl in the playoffs, but that's because Cam Akers came back. Every good team has a duo of running backs that can do anything they want on the field. So I think the Cowboys do have good running backs, and Dave mentioned the offensive line. They have future Hall of Famers on their offensive line. Zach Martin is a guy that is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Defensively, they got a lot of young studs out there. They have Leighton Vander Esch, who is a great middle linebacker for them. We mentioned Diggs and Parsons, who had stellar rookie years. So it's there for the Cowboys. I just think there's too many distractions for them.
Talking about these running backs, do you guys see a couple other big names that have came up as being moved, possibly? Saquon and McCaffrey. Do you think either one of those guys land somewhere else? And if they do they play running back? Because I think there's a good chance McCaffrey lands on a team as a slot receiver going forward in his career.
Yeah, I can see somebody like McCaffrey being used like Deebo Samuel did in San Francisco. I would like to see it. I'm going to think of a couple of teams I would like to see McCaffrey on that would be utilized. One of them being probably freaking the Rams, for example. Like they would, the rich would get richer, obviously, and they would probably, have to make room somehow with their offense. But an offense like that would be killer for a guy like Christian McCaffrey. And also, I like the Green Bay Packers, and we might get into a Rodgers discussion later, but Christian McCaffrey with Aaron Rodgers would be a really big deal for this league. And that's just adding another weapon to Devontae Adams, who may or may not be there next year, to develop. That might be a piece that they could give Rodgers to make him stay in Green Bay. As for Saquon, Saquon's had some injuries, just like Christian McCaffrey, but they're both really, really, really good running backs. We see, the first 5 games of the season, they both stuffed the stat sheets per se, but and then, things happen. They don't play on good teams, so they get overused. So they're going to get hurt. So if they play on a good team that don't need them every play, their longevity is going to kick in, and then they're going to be more effective later on in the year. And who knows? They could lead it. Those two are big game changers. They could elevate one of those teams to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, one thing I've liked in the rumors, and Dave, I'll let you take this. Rivera having a reunion with McCaffrey in Washington. What do you think?
It's definitely a Redskins move to go out and get the injured running back. I wouldn't hate it, but Antonio Gibson's a stud. We got to go get a quarterback. I would say it's not really on our list of needs. I think Peyton Barber not Peyton Barber, sorry. Is it McKissick? J.D. McKissick was our backup who had a very serviceable year. I think he's a free agent this year as well. So, I don't know. I could see it happening, but, at the same time, I hope it doesn't happen. I'd rather go get that franchise quarterback but, we'll see. Free agency, it started. Has it started yet, or is it?
Free agency hasn't started. We're still in the franchise tag window, which has been alarmingly quiet.
Yeah.
But free agency starts, I think, the 14th.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to hijack it since you started it, and I think the biggest one we're looking at there is Devontae Adams, which Frank mentioned it earlier. What's holding that one up? The good old boy Aaron Rodgers. So, what do y'all think he's going to do?
I think Rodgers stays in Green Bay. They have been spending way too much time and effort in restructuring the salaries they have on that roster. They've created, I think, over $20 million in cap room just in salary restructures or contract restructures. I don't think Green Bay is making those moves, not announcing anything on Adams, and Rodgers is staying quiet unless they know he's staying. Mm-hmm. I think Rodgers retires a Packer. I think Adams comes back on a new deal. Rodgers has 1 year left. Maybe he signs an extension. Maybe he hangs it up. I don't know. I think he retires in Green Bay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really can't. I can't see him playing anywhere else. I don't know that he fits anywhere else, in my opinion. I don't want it to be, he's one of the all-time greats, and I don't want it to be like a Brett Favre situation where he's kind of bouncing around at the end of his year or at the end of his career, with the Jets and then the Vikings. Kind of having some mediocre seasons. He had a really good season there with the Vikings at the end of his career, but Jets wasn't a good fit for him. There's a lot of drama there and a lot of scandals there. But, like Joe Montana as well, like he ended his career with the Chiefs, and it's just something that you don't really look at as something that's a career highlight for him. Some teams, like, some players like Tom Brady, for example, he obviously made the right choice for him. He won the Super Bowl, but you want a guy like that stay with their team, and when he goes to the Hall of Fame, he's going to be inducted as a Packer. So it's good for football if he stays in the green and gold.
Yeah. So you guys both said he's staying. I don't think he's going anywhere else. So I'm going to take I think he retires.
Ooh.
He was.
I think that's the second most likely.
I agree. And so, for our podcast sake, that's the option I'm picking. I don't know how much you all keep up with the entertainment news, but, they're saying him and his fiance broke up, and now you see them all together back and back, lovey-lovey. I think he's done. I think he's going to hang him up.
Two things that are really interesting in the Rodgers saga. One, he has bought property in Tennessee. He is building a house there. And the Titans are on the list of teams that have reached out to the Packers. And as far as I know, every team that's reached out has a deal done in principle. They are all ready to pull the trigger if Rodgers says, that's where I want to go. Denver, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, those are the three I've heard. They're just waiting on Rodgers. So him having the house and the property there could mean absolutely nothing because NFL players are stars, they're millionaires, they have houses all over the country. But I think that one's interesting.
The three teams you mentioned just now, of the three, I would probably rank them in terms of me being in Rodgers' shoes. If I chose not to retire, I would probably go Tennessee, Pittsburgh, then Denver, in my opinion. That's because, like I already said with Dak, you put Dak on the Tennessee Titans, they're probably a Super Bowl contender. Yeah. You put Aaron Rodgers with the Titans, they're winning the Super Bowl. They're not a contender. Honestly, I would hate to see him go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they're looking for somebody desperately. Mason Rudolph is definitely not the best option there for them. But they have really good receivers, and this the history. The history for the Pittsburgh Steelers is probably more, I would say, distinct, and their culture is there already. It's probably a better organization to be playing for than the Packers, in my opinion. Although both teams have so much history, the Packers obviously, it's going to go down as one of the greatest sports franchises of all time. But the Steelers are right up there with them, if not above them, based on just recency bias.
Yeah. So this is something I've been wanting to talk about for weeks. Since before we started the show, Pittsburgh Steelers kind of been on my mind. They're slowly becoming my favorite franchise. It has. Now listen, nothing to do with what they're doing on the field. Absolutely nothing. And I'm going to go off on a rant here, guys. So reel me in if you need to. I feel very strongly about this. It's the biggest topic to me right now. In 2003, the Steelers were responsible for the Rooney Rule going in. That's when it happened. At that time, there were 3 African-American head coaches in the NFL. Today, if you include Ron Rivera, who I do believe is from a...
He's a minority.
He is minority, yes. We have 3 African-American coaches in the NFL, 18 years later. What the Steelers are doing by creating that rule, bringing Flores in after that situation when, everyone thought he was kind of blacklisted from the NFL, I absolutely love it. I love the message they're sending to the league. I love the attitude that Mike Tomlin has walked on the sideline with for, I believe, 16 years now. Second longest tenure head coach in the NFL. And even looking at what they're doing going forward, it sounds like a pretty sure bet that that's where Malik Willis lands. He's in every mock. He's going to Pittsburgh. And you see this guy before the combine on the street opening his suitcase and giving clothes to homeless people. I love everything about Pittsburgh right now off the field. And touching on, the coaching situation in Flores, listen, it's insane that he got fired. So we talk about coaching trees all the time. We had a conversation offline. Liam Cohen from UK takes the Los Angeles Rams job as offensive coordinator, and we know he will be an NFL head coach because he's coming from the Sean McVay coaching tree. Brian Flores came from Bill Belichick's coaching tree. Belichick, in his first 3 years in New England, 5-11 in year 1, 11-5 in year 2, 9-7 in year 3. Brian Flores, from the Belichick coaching tree, in the same division of football, goes 5-11 in year 1, 10-6 in year 2, 9-8 in year 3. Almost identical records. One gets fired, and one has led the greatest dynasty in NFL history. It is unreal to me that he did not get the opportunity to keep that job. And I'm going to highlight 2 more coaches here. Like I said, this is a rant, guys. Cut me off if you need to. Second one, David Culley out of Houston. He was the Texans head coach last year. As a first-year head coach in Houston, taking over a 4-12 season where they finished 30th in the league with both Deshaun Watson playing a full season and J.J. Watt on that roster. David Culley went 4-12, finishing 29th in the league. And if you look what he did with the talent on that roster, they were dead last. By every metric, by every professional you ask, here's some excerpts from preseason power rankings. Sports Illustrated said this franchise is a train wreck and could end up 0-16. NFL.com, David Culley is in the least enviable position you can imagine for a first-year head coach. The Ringer, Houston looks like the favorites for the top overall pick. And Bleacher Report said Houston features the NFL's least talented roster. All 4 of those outlets had them 32nd out of 32 in preseason power rankings. Now, is 4 wins amazing? No. But to repeat the success you had with a quarterback the caliber of Deshaun Watson and a team leader in J.J. Watt, and to get fired, I'm speechless. This one is almost more flooring to me than Flores. Last one. I'm going to be quick, okay? Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. There were some rumors that he was having issues in Kansas City because the head coach he worked for was so shocked that he didn't get a head coaching job. He didn't know he needed to give him a new contract. So he stayed with the Chiefs this year. Andy Reid touched on it in his press conference. He said, I thought the guy was getting a job. He's an amazing guy. We're glad to have him back, but I thought he was a head coach. He's been the offensive coordinator for 4 years. During that time, Eric Bieniemy has the highest win percentage of any offensive coordinator that was hired this season. They have won a Super Bowl, and they have offensive ranks of first, sixth, first, and third in the NFL over those 4 years. Only 2 of the offensive coordinator hires this year had one offense ranked that high. He also has a top 5 NFL offense of all time. He has been interviewed for 15 head coaching opportunities and has not been hired. NFL has a problem. I don't know how to fix it. It blows my mind that it still exists in this day and age, but these guys have so much talent and are not getting the same opportunities. Josh McDaniel has been tied to 4 different major scandals in his time in the NFL. Most of them with cheating, twice in 2 different coaching locations. Once when he was head coach at Denver, as well as when he was with the Patriots. They were using video illegally. He was there when Deflategate went on. He was there when he was trying to trade away a 25-year-old Pro Bowl Jay Cutler in Denver without him knowing about it. I just don't know how that guy, who has shown multiple times to be untrustworthy, gets a head coaching job over any of these other ones.
I fully agree with everything you just said. Eric Bieniemy is probably the most well-known name that you mentioned in terms of screen time. I would call it that on ESPN and other sports news outlets. Every time the Chiefs are playing, they're highlighting that man and what he's done. Him and Andy Reid are a dynamic duo, and I don't know if obviously if he's interviewing for head coaching jobs, he obviously wants one. The fact that he's not been hired and these other people have been, you make a very valid point. I know that the dude obviously can play. He can coach football. He can coach players, and obviously the people love him. So I mean, you made a valid point. There has to be something. Somebody has to have something against him, but they would have already released it by now. It doesn't make any sense to me. And Josh McDaniels, the whole thing, I've turned off by that guy anyway, because I mean, last year what was supposed to go to the Colts or something last year?
Yeah.
And he's basically stepping foot on the plane and like, I'm out. Yeah. And he's like, I ain't coming. To hell with you guys. So I think that whole ordeal of coaches in professional sports is, I think they have an impact on the game. I don't feel like they have as big of an impact on the game as we might think they do. That's just me. I feel like you can have a greatest coach in the world, but if you don't have players on the field playing for you that are good, you're not going to do anything. So some of these coaches, like you mentioned the Texans, like Lovie Smith, dude's been dealt a bad hand already. He's already behind the 8 ball. How many years are they going to give him in Houston?
1.
With the Deshaun Watson thing going on. Who knows what's happening. I wish that would get resolved because I love watching the guy play. I don't know, his personal life may be shit, but he was a terrible person apparently. But like, who knows? There's a lot of drama, and I think it's like a pity hire in my opinion. Like, why would anybody want that job? And maybe, hopefully, he coached the Browns for a long time, or the Bears for a long time. That's probably the last time the Bears were relevant, was when he was a coach. So
yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and
I will
the
say
carousel thing is crazy.
I want to touch on Flores didn't sign an NDA with the Dolphins, so I know we've already heard some stuff come out. I'm interested to see what other information he drops because there's got to be stuff there. There's no reason why a guy who takes a losing franchise and has 2 back-to-back winning seasons gets canned. And you can say it's because he didn't cheat and get Tom Brady to come sign with the Dolphins and all that, but shouldn't have been fired.
Yeah, I remember talking to my brother-in-law, and he's like, Brian Flores got fired, and I was like, are you shitting me? Like, is that a thing? Like, why? The dude went on an 8-game winning streak in the NFL, almost brought him back from the depths of hell to the playoffs in like a few short weeks, and that's difficult in the NFL. And no matter what people's records are, they're still NFL football players. They're the top 1% of athletes in the world. So, like, even if a team is bad, they're still good at football. So, like, you can get beat any day. The Bengals got beat by the Jets.
The Jets.
And got throttled. It got throttled by the Chargers. Throttled.
I'm saying
Super Bowl.
The Jaguars would still beat Bama. It doesn't matter how good a college team would be. A professional
people say
team
that crap
still
all the
throttles
time.
them.
No, they can't. No, they can't. They can't do that. But that was a pretty good discussion there on the NFL coaches, and it's probably think about if you were the new head coach of the Dolphins walking into that situation, how would you feel?
Pumped.
I think Mike McDaniel's a great guy. Dave highlighted him. I think he's a good coach. He's got a good personality to handle that kind of drama. And again, not knocking any of the hires that were made. My issue is in the firings, and then I guess I am knocking the hires because Bieniemy should be a head coach. So any team that didn't hire him was wrong in my opinion. There was not a better candidate. But I do think Mike McDaniel will do well there. I think he's probably the best personality fit of the head coaching hires to handle that drama.
And he's walking into a stud of a team.
Yeah, I was listening to Pat McAfee earlier today, and he was talking about the Dolphin situation, and he mentioned him going in there and having this sense of humor, and the dude is absolutely hilarious. Everything that comes out of his mouth is hilarious, and humor is the best medicine at some point, in most cases actually. And that might be something that you can address later on with them, and be that kind of guy that helps out a team. The team that's struggling.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to talking more NFL football, mainly the NFL Combine. We have a lot of college football players that helped their draft stock this week. My biggest surprise, or I would call it a feat of something unfreaking believable, would be Big Jordan Davis, defensive lineman from Georgia, a 4.78 second 40-yard dash. The dude weighs 340 pounds. Let me tell you how. Listen, let me tell you something. The dude weighs about as much as I do. I can't move like that. There's no way. Never have been, never will. He's an athlete, son. He's a walking refrigerator that is going to make a lot of money here in a couple weeks.
And not to be rude, but that guy's got some jiggle too. It's not like he's just ripped out of his mind. He's got that jiggle, and he's still moving that quick.
Dude, he's the greatest representation of a big man that we could ever imagine. Like, I love the dude, and I've loved what he's done for the big guy. Love it. Yeah. But also, I mean, that's not it. The dude had a 32-inch vertical.
Yep. An over 10-foot broad jump. That's a record.
And a 10'3" broad jump. He's jumping from one side to the other, 10 feet, 3 inches at 340 pounds.
I believe he set the record for longest broad jump of a player over 300 pounds. And there's a huge difference between 300 and 340.
Massive difference. A 300-pounder is someone along the lines of, who would you think?
Like, I don't know if we're going combine players.
Yeah.
Tyler Linderbaum, who they compare to having tight end athleticism.
Yeah.
Just under 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Bigger now. I just don't understand how, physics and gravity, they just affect that dude differently. It just doesn't happen. Those things shouldn't happen for a man that big. And when you see him take up 4 gaps on the offensive line, he's going to be an A and B gap player in the NFL. He's going to be a 1, 0, and 3 technique NFL player. He's Vince Wilfork, but better.
The biggest question with him is, can he stay on the field for all 3 downs? A lot of people are saying he's just a rundown player, and I think his speed showed otherwise. But, conditioning's tough. Like we said, he's got a little jiggle. Can you keep him on the field? And it's hard to invest a top 20 pick in a player that's only going to play 2 out of 3 downs for you on defense.
I can see that. I do think there are teams that are going to take they might like him for that role. Mm-hmm. Somebody that may have some already established nose tackles on their team. Mm-hmm. So I don't know off the top of my head which teams that would be. But, there are teams out there who they sign mediocre defensive linemen every single year, and then they might be looking for that guy to give them that spark.
He could be the next Akeem Hicks. I mean, that guy's made a living just clogging up holes. If that guy can clog them up and get through them.
My favorite thing about Davis is Combine Week is all about comparisons, right?
Yep.
You hear these guys coming out. Treylon Burks reminds you of DK Metcalf almost. Desmond Ridder looks a lot like Marcus Mariota. Jordan Davis is amazing. There is no comp. Can't say anything.
I watched a video of the hologram comparisons of them running the 40, and it had like Jordan Davis out in front with Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was like 3 or 4 steps behind him, and I think it's just unbelievable the things that happen. Yeah. He's an athlete. Big guys are athletes too. Don't let anybody tell you any different. We've already talked about. We kind of hinted on like the big performances from all the wide receivers. One in particular, and I say this because I'm a UK fan, Wandel Robinson had a pretty significant impact with his 40. It was a 4.38, something like that. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But the dude is, he's small in stature, but I think he probably helped himself out this week. Another big shout out to University of Kentucky players. Yusuf Corker, who is a safety, probably not projected in the first couple of rounds of the draft, probably a mid-round draft pick. 23 reps on the bench press at 225 as a safety, most among defensive backs. So shout out to Corker. He was really big for us at UK the last couple of years. Big leader, huge, big hitter. And a lot of teams like those kinds of safeties. And he's going to be a steal for somebody late in the round, for sure.
Yeah, I think after watching the Combine and seeing this may not be the best Combine class because it lacks those big names. Mm-hmm. You don't have that top 10 running back. You don't have that obvious number 1 quarterback. But depth-wise, this may be one of the best draft classes.
Yeah.
And what I think is really interesting, one team that jumps out at me is the Philadelphia Eagles because they had 3 picks in that first round before 20.
Wow.
And a draft with this much athleticism and this much depth, like you can turn the team around.
You can flip a roster
real quick.
Draft picks with the talent. Now, a team that was 9-8.
That was a playoff team. Playoff team, yeah. With a very athletic, very competent quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and from what I can tell, pretty lackluster wide receivers. And I don't watch Eagles games, but is Nelson Aguilar still an Eagle? Or
for the time
Patriots.
being, I believe he is.
No, he's on the Patriots.
That's right. Either way, you can't catch, so it don't matter. He didn't help him when he was an Eagle anyway. I don't know if I can name an Eagles wide receiver. They got rid of Zach Ertz.
Devontae Smith,
yeah, new guy.
Yeah. Oh, who's the guy? Who's the guy they picked before Justin Jefferson?
Rager.
Yeah, Jalen Rager.
I bet they hate that.
And they also had the quarterback or the wide receiver. They played at quarterback for a while. I can't remember his name, but he played quarterback for them one game the year before they got hurt. I don't know how to step on that, but we'll move on.
We'll figure it out. We'll pop a name up on the screen.
I did hear one NFL executive from the draft say that if he could trade all his picks for the next 2 years, he would take Georgia's front 7.
Yeah.
The way they tested in this draft, it was like, give me the front 7 and I won't pick for 2 years.
Yeah. Georgia was unbelievable. I was actually reading like winners and losers of the draft in terms of individual performances, and I forget who wrote the article, but it was on CBS Sports, and they listed about 5 players that were winner. 4 of them were Georgia players, and they were defensive linemen and linebackers, all from Georgia.
Yeah, that's going to be everything about this draft. It's going to be the defense is stacked, offensive line is stacked, and there's a lot of good wide receivers out there. You're going to have some early quarterbacks taken from teams that need them, but it's going to be wide receivers and defense for the most part.
2 quick things for me, and I'll move on. I think wide receivers hurt themselves because they're all so good. They all look good in route running. They all have speed. There's a lot of size. I think wide receivers fall because of that depth.
Yeah.
And bold take right here, Desmond Ridder will be the best first-year quarterback in this class.
I was getting ready to ask that question, which of the quarterbacks that were available for this draft to be the best. I think it's really cool that you said Desmond Ridder because he's a Kentucky boy. St. X High School in Louisville, went to the University of Cincinnati. There's a lot of Kentucky kids that go there. And it's really cool to see them on the big stage and a kid like Desmond Ridder get his shot. I do think I liked what I've seen from him. He's super athletic, could throw the ball, had a lot of speedy athletic weapons that were, geared toward, a lot of slot guys. And, the NFL, in my opinion, is a slot league. There's a lot of things that go on in between the hashes in the trenches, obviously, but from tackle to hash, there's a lot of games won in that area of the field. So
yeah, and one word that keeps coming up with him is maturity, and I think that's very closely linked to leadership.
Yeah.
So I love the Marcus Mariota comp. He's a free agent. I would love to see a team that drafts Ridder go get Mariota and kind of marry those two up. Let him learn from him, even study under him some if you don't start Ridder right away. But I love having that interchangeable quarterback, same play style in your system. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hate picking who's going to be the most successful quarterback because, it's all about situation. We talked about Baker Mayfield. I think he's a decent quarterback. He's been in a rough situation. It's who's even going to go. It looks like, a lot of these guys have Malik Willis, the Liberty quarterback, going pretty high. Kenny Pickett.
We mentioned Malik Willis going to the Steelers, maybe. Kenny Pickett has been tied with the Steelers.
Yeah. Matt Corral.
What do we make of the hand size?
You talk about Kenny Pickett's hand size.
We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
That was ESPN for 2 days.
It's like
8.5 inches, boys. 8.5.
I have tiny hands. I have 8.5. Me and Kenny Pickett, bro, handshake. Same thing.
I love his comment. He's like, it doesn't matter if I throw a rope for 45 yards. No, but it can affect a lot of things.
It can affect a lot of things. But, how many quarterbacks are going to hold on to the ball one-handed when you have, Aaron Donald slap it out of your hand? I don't think it matters. It's the stupidest thing to talk about.
You're not keeping that ball. You're not keeping the ball in your hands if that happens.
See, I think it does matter a little bit. I don't know that there's a person that Kenny Pickett and this guy are back neck and neck. If you had somebody like that, it would. But look, if he goes to a team up north, say he goes to the Giants, he's playing outdoor games in December and January. That ball's cold.
He's already played at Pittsburgh.
Well, you know what to do now. You just deflated a little bit.
Touche. I don't think it'll affect his draft stock much, if any. But you look at a quarterback like Baker, who's led the NFL in turnovers over his first 4 years. He's still got a starting job. So that's the only thing I see it affecting. He may fumble a little more.
I don't know. When you're picking between, especially a pretty lackluster quarterback class, there's no stars. There's not a Trevor Lawrence. There's not a Joe Burrow.
We can't call Lawrence a star yet.
No.
In college he was. He's not a star right now, but in college he's coming out. He's a big name. I think, but if you're an NFL team, are you looking for a starter right now? But let me finish. When you're thinking about drafting a quarterback this year, do you, as an organization, look at your roster, look at your current quarterback situation? Let's say, I don't know who would be good. Maybe the Seahawks if you keep Russell Wilson. Do you look at your situation and be like, hey, I think we should draft a quarterback of this type of caliber that we have right now, let him play and learn from Russell Wilson, and then 4 or 5 years down the road, you got a starting quarterback that can possibly help you win a lot of football games because he's been there. I know quarterbacks don't like going and sitting for a while. I think they kind of get buried, and then the new crop comes in, and then they're like, oh, this guy's better than him, but then they draft overall. I think that happens, but we've seen it be successful as well with Aaron Rodgers. They drafted Aaron Rodgers with Brett Favre there, and Aaron got to be with Brett Favre. I think that's a good possibility for a lot of these teams right now that don't necessarily need quarterbacks, but go get one anyway with no plans to use them. And I know that's kind of out of the normal, frame of mind for a lot of these drafts, but you do that with every other position. Why not do it with a quarterback?
It has worked, but it hasn't worked in 15 years. It hasn't worked since Rodgers. Mahomes sat 1 year.
Yeah. Well,
They did that New England, right? We're drafting Garoppolo to be the next thing for Brady. They had to move on from one of them.
But honestly, both that situation, they thought Brady might retire sooner.
Right, but he didn't. And I just don't think if you want to keep a guy like Russ, you can't bring somebody else in. He's already got drama. He's going to want to move on if you bring in a replacement. I agree that a lot of those players need it. If I'm a team that needs a quarterback this year, I'm not looking in the draft.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't get a starter here, in my opinion.
I think Jameis Winston is a massive free agent.
Yes.
I think playing under Breeze for 2 years and what he did last season when he was healthy, guys, he was 14 touchdowns, 3 picks, top 10 in QBR in the games he played. I think he's a playoff quarterback.
yeah, he wasn't even thrown to anybody.
No, they didn't even have Mike Thomas. They had no receivers.
Yeah. I don't think.
But anyway.
You look at the Jordan Love situation and how that backfired for the Packers. We got Aaron Rodgers talking retirement, and you could probably go right back to that draft night and say that's where it all started, where they drafted his replacement. And so you look at how like OBJ, like guys are just moving teams as much as they want. It's like you just go get your quarterback, go get a proven guy. I mean, you take a quarterback, but I wouldn't bet the house on a top 10 quarterback. I mean, look at Trevor Lawrence. He went 1-1, went to a bad team, didn't look great. We still don't know what he's going to be. I think you hit the free agency. It's too easy these days.
The only way I'm drafting a quarterback to sit is if I sign a free agent and they know that going in. If I'm signing a Bridgewater, a Mariota, maybe even Trubisky, I think a lot of people have Darnold's not a free agent.
No.
He signed into a massive deal with Carolina that they're stuck with.
That's why I kind of brought him up. I was like, he doesn't. They don't need him there anymore. Like,
but those three names, I think, could land on a team that drafts a quarterback, knowing when they sign that deal, they're here to kind of resurrect their career or get moved.
Yeah. NFL is interesting this time of year. I would probably go as far to say that it, free agency, signing periods, coaching changes, all that good stuff, draft nights, draft projections, draft reactions. This is probably more exciting than the first, 10 weeks of the season.
Oh no!
I love watching football games, but
I think
this is what makes sports to me.
It's speculation.
How do you build a team?
Yeah, it's all speculation. That's all it is, and that's what people love, especially when maybe your team is in the news of doing something like making a big splash.
Mm-hmm.
They get you excited for the season, and then obviously if your team's pretty good in the season, you're going to like it. But if your team sucks, you're looking for the off season to come around so you can see if you can make a big splash.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Comey fan, and then the off season just brings bad news.
I think McCaffrey in the slot would be a good fit for them.
Yeah.
Hey, if we get him for like a 4th round draft pick, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But we're going to give up the house if we do that trade. So,
yeah.
All right.
So we're gonna move on, switch gears. Look, conference tournaments are starting for college basketball. Murray State punched their ticket yesterday. Was it yesterday or today? I can't remember.
Yes,
yesterday?
last
I
night.
don't remember.
Wild finish to that one.
It's Sunday. They played on Saturday. It was late night.
Yep. Loyola
So
Chicago.
they're the first team to make it in.
Loyola punched their ticket
We
today.
were, we were kind of hoping Morehead State would win. Both of them Kentucky teams. But we had a bubble talk last week. We were kind of. I was pulling for Morehead State to steal a bid from somebody. Murray State would have been an at-large bid had they lost. I would love nothing more. Although Memphis did look good today, I would love nothing more than to see one of those teams get knocked out, and little old Morehead and little old Murray State walk into the NCAA tournament and make some noise there. That'd be awesome. But we have, one of the biggest talked about topics right now would be Player of the Year race. And, most years somebody always runs away with it. It's really not even that close. And in my opinion, now it's still not close. But for some reason, college basketball analysts and broadcasters, they're putting a couple of names at the top of the list. And Oscar Tshiebwe is obviously at the top, hands down. And I'm not being a homer. The dude just gets buckets after buckets. And if he misses a bucket, he's getting the bucket off of a rebound. That he's doing things that aren't normal that we just expect for him to do every game. The other name they always bring up is Johnny Davis from Wisconsin. You got Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme and Gonzaga. They don't hold a candle to either one of those two guys, in my opinion. Very good ball players, but they don't have a chance to win Player of the Year. Ivy from Purdue has been on some lists, but there's really no other player you can possibly give that award to than Oscar Tshiebwe from Kentucky. And if you have any other opinion, it's wrong. It's wrong. So that's just my opinion. The fact that we watch him all the time, and he's on the double train nightly. He has a double in the first half and turns around, has another double in the second half, and it's normal for him. It's just something that he does. When he doesn't if he doesn't go into the locker room at halftime with 10 rebounds, we're like, man, Oscar's not playing very good tonight. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not normal for people to do that. And I think we're taking his talent I wouldn't even call it talent. Obviously he's talented. But he's given 145% every single possession. That's the reason he is as good as he is, because the dude works his ass off. And I just want to give a shout out to Oscar Tshiebwe. I know he probably don't know we exist in this world, but the dude should win every postseason award for Player of the Year, and it's not even close.
I wouldn't say it's not close.
I would like to note that Oscar Tshiebwe,
it's not close.
Tshiebwe is second in NCAA in double-doubles.
Doesn't matter.
To Wandel Robinson from Utah Valley.
Yeah. So
if Tshiebwe played for Utah Valley, Tshiebwe would have, in 38 games, he'd probably have 40 double-doubles.
Yeah, it was work. It was work to find a stat against Tshiebwe. I do think he's the Player of the Year. He doesn't have the offensive statistics of probably an Ivy or a Johnny Davidson, but
nobody does.
You can't deny the impact he has.
I got all the stats right here ready for you boys whenever you want me to go.
Let's go, Dave. Let's hear it.
All right.
Let's hear it, Dave.
So I got real fired up yesterday because CBS put up a thing with Johnny Davis and Oscar Tshiebwe and how Johnny Davis held a candle. But Oscar's got 17 points a game. I mean, this is all yearly average. I just looked it up on ESPN, so it should be through today. 17 points per game, 15 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 1.5 blocks, 2 turnovers, and he's shooting 60% field goal percentage. Pretty freaking good. I would say the closest comp to him is Kofi Cockburn out of Illinois. He's averaging 21 a game, 10.5 rebounds, an assist, a block, 2 turnovers, and 60% shooting from the field. So I would, Oscar playing on Kentucky, it's loaded. Kofi Cockburn, probably Illinois, they rely on him to score a lot more. And then you got Johnny Davis. He's got 20 a game, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, averaging half a block a game with 2 turnovers and shooting 44%. I would say those are his 2 competitions. You know, I value rebounds more than I do points, but I don't know how Oscar isn't unanimous player of the year.
Yeah. If you watch basketball and I know that a lot of people dislike Kentucky basketball, but when you watch them play, you understand that they don't need Oscar to score points to win. They need Oscar to rebound to win. And the player of the year may not necessarily be the most valuable player, but it's the player that's most valuable to their team and does whatever their team needs to win the best. I think Oscar is the perfect fit for what the team that Kentucky has right now. And they are the primary reason why anybody who is talking college basketball picks them to do anything in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. I think you take him out of the equation, I think they are probably the first 2 weekends out of the NCAA tournament. But you put him in the equation, and you're talking Elite Eight, Final Four, National Championship type team. Now, I'm not going to put a designation on that. That's a story we'll have for next week. But just me, you know, growing up my whole life watching basketball, seeing which teams win the NCAA tournament, and you see how they are made up. And I think this Kentucky team, as well as a couple other ones, don't get me wrong, like Gonzaga, very well built to win a national championship. Like we talked last week, I think Purdue is another team that's built similarly to Kentucky. They have their big guy. They have their presence in the middle. You know, the one thing that does hurt Shibwe is he doesn't do well with athletic big men that are bigger than him.
Length specifically.
I don't know. He handled Matt Castleton pretty well yesterday with 27.
I said athletic big men.
Oh.
Castleton's what, 6'11"? I'm just saying, Zach Edey is 7'4". That's a big difference. You talk about Purdue.
And you look at Auburn's big men, Colton Kessler, Jabari Smith. He had to guard both of them. Yeah. Those guys gave him trouble. Yeah. And it's not necessarily trouble on the defensive end. He can play defense against them. He just can't score against them. And if Shibwe gives you 10, 15 points, you're feeling really good about yourself. You know, I think they played Florida yesterday. They threw up, I don't know how many points he had. He had almost 30 points against Florida. And that's because he got the ball, back down, turned, hook, banked it in every single time. I don't think he missed a shot that I saw. I can't remember. I'm being sarcastic, but the dude just put it in the bucket. And then when he doesn't, he's automatically knows when it's not going in. He's going to get it. And he's just going to fight his ass off to get a rebound. And I think that's what's going to help him, propel him to the next stop. And we're talking about a guy that may come back.
Oh, he's for sure coming back
next year. That may come back and make a lot of NIL money.
NIL is a game changer, guys. We need to bring that up in a future episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I do want to talk about it because it is breaking news. It was announced the other day that Kentucky recruit signee number 25 in the nation, Sky Clark, has now backed out and is reopening his recruitment. And that, to me, my instant reaction, knee-jerk, is that Severe Wheeler has told Cal he's coming back and he's going to get paid.
Yeah.
So, and that just shows you the impact of NIL.
Also, you know, you have Casey Wallace coming in. I'm pretty sure that's his name. I should know that. But he is another guard. And you still have Shaden Sharp sitting over there on the bench. You know, nobody knows what he's doing.
Never plays a game for UK.
I'm leaning that way as well. But,
you
know, for Sky Clark to just say, hey, I ain't coming over one player, over one Severe Wheeler, knowing that Tata's gone, knowing that Davion Mintz is leaving, Kellen Grady's leaving. That's 3 starting guards. You do have C.J. Frederick coming back from injury, who is a big-time scorer, big-time three-point shooter. But he's not going to be somebody that's going to run the point for you. And Severe Wheeler can't do it by himself. So even if Shaden Sharp does leave, even if we don't get a top-tier freshman point guard to back him up, Sky Clark has to know something in order for him to make that decision now, in order for him to just back out of a 2-year-long commitment to a school. And I'm not knocking him for it. he obviously knows something that we don't, or he's been told something by a UK staff member or somebody that's very close to the University of Kentucky basketball program that this is going to be our situation next year. And he had to make a decision based on, do I want to go there and, maybe play limited minutes like a Damian Collins, like a couple of our role players that were supposed to be one and dones that may not come back next year.
I mean, he could still come back.
The landscape now.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to come back, but I'm talking about like Collins, but like we're leaving 3 guards at least.
I don't know, man.
And if you lose 3 guards,
transfer portal.
Yeah, I think that's where he's shifting his focus to anyway. I think he might sign as many top 10, 15 players as he can, maybe 2 or 3, and then he's going to be done. He's going to go because he's already proven that it's what's best. Go to the transfer portal, get 2-year guys, 3-year guys that have already proven themselves. If you want a scorer, you can go find one. If you want a big man, you can go find one. If you want a point guard, you go find one that's already done it. Don't have a 17-year-old kid come to your campus and expect him to do the things that we've expected him to do. I think that's the shift that we're seeing in college basketball right now.
That's the landscape in sports in general. I mean, that's what we're seeing seep down from those professional leagues. We just talked about OBJ. I don't want to be in Cleveland. Get me out. James Harden. I don't want to be in Houston. Or you know what? I don't want to be in Brooklyn either. So, I mean, that's what they're doing now, and it's coming down to college, and NIL is now free agency.
Yep.
I mean, it's another pro league. And you look at the players that are standing out this year, Sheboy and Wheeler and Grady as well. Then you look at some other big names, Walker Kessler. He was on the bench for Carolina last year. We lost him.
Yeah.
We lost 4 post players, 3 to the transfer portal. It's crazy. That's why Roy left Carolina. The game changed. College basketball wasn't the game that he used to coach, and he knew it was time to step away because he didn't want to adapt. And you're seeing it in every sport, but the college basketball is not what it was even 5 years ago.
No, I agree.
Animal. I think you're going to start seeing schools in big markets, just like you do in your major league sports, become powerhouses. I think the NIL deals in places like Miami, in LA, with UCLA and USC, like those schools are going to start becoming extremely attractive to these players because the endorsement deals you can get in a city that size is going to be insane.
Yep.
Yeah, we talk about Big East basketball. Big East is off. There's a lot of schools up in New York and that area from the Big East. Syracuse make a comeback. Come on, give it to me. Well, I think we've been talking long enough. We're going to go ahead and exit out of this show. Again, 75% of y'all aren't subscribed to this YouTube channel. I think we're up to probably what? I don't know. I checked it last night. I think we're up like 31 audio podcast downloads. Not terrible. Let's get that up. Let's spread the word, spread the love to the TRIF3CTA Sports boys. We appreciate all the love and support from our local families and friends. We're just trying to out here having fun. We got Coop here with me in person. We had some technical difficulties, so we can't be on the same channel. But
I'm here.
We're here. He's with us. It's right here. But Dave's still over there in Illinois. But we're going to sign out. We hope you guys have a fantastic day. Next week we got a big show planned, all about bracketology. Make sure you tune in. Thank you guys.
Love you.